Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Carr. So yesterday Mrs. Green talked about Eli Thayer and how he was an abolitionist and he was helpful to the slaves. So today you're going to hear Miss McCoy talk about a man that was a slave owner and how he tried to chase his slave that tried to escape, a runaway, all the way to Lake Erie. So I'm going to read a little bit about runaway slaves, just to give you a little bit more information about that. So it says, more than anything, most slaves wanted their freedom. Some even risked their lives and tried to run away from their owners to achieve this goal. Running away was the most basic form of resistance to slavery. These runaways came from all backgrounds, old and young, healthy and sick. Some were from plantations, and others came from urban homes. Men, women, and children all wanted to taste freedom, but mostly it was the men who attempted to escape. They were able to survive better on their own in the wilderness than the women and children. Women often had children and were reluctant to leave them behind. In some cases, entire families tried to escape together. The reasons for running away were varied. Slaves ran away because they heard that they would be sold away from their relatives. Others left when they heard that the loved one was very sick. Some slaves ran away to protest against the cruelty of their owners. They wanted better treatment and better living and working conditions. And some did it just to defy the entire system of slavery. During the American Revolution, it is estimated that more than 100,000 slaves escaped and joined the British side or fled to Canada or Florida. Slaves had much to lose when they ran away. Many times, they never saw their families again. If captured, slaves were sometimes beaten severely by their owners. In 1740, South Carolina passed a law that made it legal to kill a slave found away from his or her home. It did not matter if the slave resisted or not. In Georgia, in 1755, a law was passed that encouraged the killing of male runaways. People who returned a dead male slave were likely to receive a much higher reward than if they returned a live woman or child. Militias, sheriffs, and night watchmen patrolled the activity of slaves in their areas. There were people who made their living purely by hunting and capturing runaways. They were called slave catchers. Upon hearing that one of their slaves had escaped, slave owners would turn these professionals to help them recover their property. When the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850, slave catchers could even travel into the northern territories to hunt down slaves who had escaped from the South. The only safe place for runaways was Canada, where slavery was outlawed. Sometimes these slave catchers would even kidnap free black men and take their papers away. Then the blacks were sold into lives of slavery. Owners worried about their slaves escaping. They posted posters and advertisements in the papers to alert the public to be on the lookout for any runaways and often offered a reward for their return. It is not known how many runaway slaves were successful and how many were captured after their attempted escapes.